He's got atheism as an absence of belief in deities. So this is one of the things that I find very, very difficult about a definition. For to be completely absent of belief in something, you sort of have to have not even heard the proposition yourself. Because when you think about a proposition, you have a cognitive process going on, and you have an answer to it. So you may not have a belief in a deity, but you will either be in a position where you believe something about it, whether it's you're not convinced there is or isn't a deity, or you believe one there isn't a deity, or you think the proposition is meaningless, or anything like that. So to have atheism as an absence of belief in deities seems almost ridiculous, and also removes pretty much everyone from the table who's actually heard the proposition God exists.
Yeah.
So, linguistic structure. Absence rather than opposition is indicated by the alpha privative a prefix, meaning without. Hence, atheism is therefore concisely characterized as without theism. Now, this is a bit of a misconception as well, because when you consider a proposition, the best way to go about it is to use propositional logic, at least if you want to give a rational answer. Now, the A ought to mean not. A can mean both without and not, but it ought to mean not as in negation. So if the proposition of theism is that God exists, the negation of that would be God does not exist, with a theist believing the proposition of theism and an atheist believing the proposition of atheism.
Well, another thing is he says a means without. But what about the word asynchronous? That doesn't mean without synchronous. It means not synchronous, as in the opposite of synchronous.
Yeah, we actually wrote a post called Synonyms, spelt S-I-N, synonyms, which is the sinful use of synonyms, and talking about how people take these words and they sort of go, well, this one's like this one, and it's like this one, and it's like this one. And one of the ones that I actually did cover off is how the A can mean not or without, and sometimes it doesn't actually change the meaning of the word, whether you're using, without or not, and sometimes it does. This is an example of where it does change the actual meaning.
Yeah, and atypical is another one. Atypical doesn't mean without typical. It means not typical. The opposite of typical. Yeah.
Again, showing logical negation of the initial term. Etymological support. Love this one. The word atheism is derived from the ancient Greek word atheos, meaning godless, or to emphasize it more generally, without deities. Okay, so this is actually not even take into account how the word was actually used. And it basically meant anyone that didn't believe in the sanctioned gods of the state. So even Christians were regarded as atheos, or atheos, however you pronounce it. And Christians then used that term to describe pagans. And all of these people were actually theists. They just believed in different gods to the sanctioned gods. The language has evolved since then. We've found more logical definitions since then. So they're not even taking into account how the word was used. Now, I think it was also Faithless Pheasant that raised, I can't remember what he said, but before it meant anyone that didn't believe in the gods, it actually meant people who were forsaken by the gods. I think, and that was the very, very original use of the term.
Well, you had people like Parmenides who were considered atheists because they questioned the existence of gods. And you had somebody like Socrates who believed in a singular god, but was considered atheist because he questioned the Roman gods and how they came about and whether they existed, or Greek gods even.
Yes. Well, they're pretty much the same, aren't they? Just a rebranding.
Copied from the papers, yeah.